Welcome to the CX Central podcast. My name is Justin Tippett, or JT, if you've known me for a while. And today I am joined by Geoff Crane, the Sales Director for Australia and New Zealand for a company called Epos. Welcome, Geoff.
G'day, Justin. Good to be here.
Mate, it's great to have you on. Now, of course, prior to this, I would have said, welcome to the CX Central podcast. I've got Geoff Crane, Sales Director, Australia and New Zealand from Sennheiser. So obviously there's been a bit of a switch. So the first thing I want to do is, because we're going to talk all about headsets today, so if people are tuning in, you're going to learn things that you never knew about headsets. And there's a lot of interesting stuff because, let's face it, they're pretty core to what we do in the call center world. So can you just start by, first of all, explaining what's Epos and where did Sennheiser go?
Sure. Okay. So Epos is a manufacturer of business headsets and speakerphones. They also have a gaming division and an air traffic control division. And we are built on the heritage and legacy of Sennheiser, which many of your listeners would know as a German manufacturer of highest quality headphones and microphones. And the company Sennheiser Communications was built in 2003 in Denmark. So what's happened is that company has changed its ownership last year, and so now we have a new name, Epos, which is all based around storytelling and voice communication. So that's what Epos is.
Oh, fantastic. That makes sense. And of course, it's obviously a bit of rebranding, I guess, for you in the Australian market now. We're seeing Epos everywhere. I'm thankful you're as a gold sponsor on CX Central. So full disclaimer and just getting that branding out there. So how are you finding the transition? Are people starting to now go, oh, yeah, know what that is?
Yeah, it has been interesting. And of course, we still co-brand many of our products, Sennheiser, Epos Sennheiser. Yep. And that relationship is continuing. We have a good relationship with the German company Sennheiser. And that will finish one day and will be Epos solely on our products, probably sometime around end of next year, perhaps.
Yeah, right.
So in the meantime, we are still with the same products developed by the same people in the same building in Copenhagen, Denmark.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right, well, let's get into it. I know everyone's tuning into this because they want to learn about headsets. And I know for a lot of people, I go, what? Yeah, it's just a bloody headset, right? But of course, there's a hell of a lot more to headsets these days. So I'm going to start off with the really simple ones, first of all, because there's a few ways now to physically connect your headset or not physically connect it. Can you walk me through what some of in simple terms, what the options are?
Sure. As I see it, looking at our product portfolio, we've got about 300 products and about 100 core range headsets, I guess, and a lot of accessories and cables to go with that. That's all about those managed legacy systems of the old-fashioned PBX system in the corner with a handset, and you plugged in a corded headset to that. Yep. And there's quite a bit of management in that from our side because we had to make sure that our headsets would work with any of the brands of handsets on the market. So that meant you had to worry about the way that the cords connected inside each of the jacks and ports. You had to worry about impedance of microphones. You had to worry about all sorts of control systems. And then particularly for contact centers, you had to worry about all the management layers that were over the top of that. So there was a lot of complexity and a lot of R&D in order to make sure that our one headset could work on any kind of platform. So that's what I call the Old Testament, the old world of PBX connected headsets. Now the more modern connected headset is a USB headset. We're all familiar with a USB port. Yep. USB-A is the traditional looking USB headset, and these days we're seeing more and more of USB-C ports, which are smaller. They plug in either direction. Thankfully, you don't have that. Try and plug it in 3 times before you actually get it to connect to your USB. Yep. So, devices are becoming more portable, like laptops and notebooks and things, and they've got less ports on them than they used to. So the move to USB-C means that things can still connect. The good thing about connected headsets is that, of course, you can be certain that it's connected, and they're quite secure. There's no battery to manage, and it's very good for a workforce that's spread out all over the place, and people just plug it in and it'll be on. Yeah. So that's the good thing about corded headsets.
And I think you find those in the majority of call centres that are listing. Most people are using a corded headset, right? Whether it's plugged into the handset on their desk or plugged in directly to the computer.
Yep, and we're finding actually quite an upsurge, a resurgence in interest in corded headsets.
Okay.
I think when wireless headsets came in, it was thought, oh, well, wireless headsets must be better. They're not always and necessarily better for the general workforce.
Yep.
The other trend we're seeing is that people aren't just buying one headset for everyone in the organization. They'll pick and choose what people need depending upon their purpose. So for some people working from home or a hybrid environment, a corded USB headset may be absolutely perfect for them, as opposed to the management and carrying around all sorts of stuff to make a wireless headset work.
Yep.
So there's good things about corded headsets.
Yep, absolutely. And all right, well, that lends itself obviously to wireless. I remember my very first wireless headset, and I thought I was finally free and I could run around the call center like an idiot. And I'm sure there's plenty of people still doing that. So is the appeal for wireless just that actual fact that you can get up, not worry about, cables, etc.? Why do people move to wireless, in your opinion?
Yeah, wireless is good. We've been interested to find that speaking with people in contact centers, the agents, they even like the freedom of just not having something at their elbow. Mm-hmm. It's even that they still are happy to sit at their desk, but just the freedom of having no constraint between them and their device. It means they can stand up, they can stretch, look out the window, have a conversation. They're on hold, they're running through the disclaimer statement, all those kinds of things, and they can take a minute out just to refresh themselves. And it does lend itself to that. So it is very good.
Yep. And I guess now we're seeing a lot more of those sit-stand kind of desks as well. So if your headset's plugged into the computer that's under your desk and you then lift up your desk, you're going to suddenly find yourself with a cord pulled out of your ear, right? So again, wireless has another advantage, I guess, in those instances.
Exactly. And I think every contact center has had that instance where people get up from their desk to take their break or whatever and forget to unplug their headset, and what a catastrophe. You pull half your equipment off the desk, the monitor, all that sort of stuff, or you break the cord or whatever. So wireless does prevent any of that kind of issue as well.
Yep. So when we're talking wireless, Geoff, what's how do they connect? Is it Bluetooth? Is it wireless like my Wi-Fi? How is it actually connecting? Is it secure? Walk me through that, because it's something I guess a lot of us, just take for granted that, I've got a wireless headset, but don't know what goes on behind the scenes.
Sure. It is a common assumption that any headset that's wireless is also Bluetooth. In fact, we hear many people call up our office and say, I want one of those Bluetooth headsets.
Right.
And we say, are you sure you want a Bluetooth headset? What it is with headsets is that there are two major forms of wireless communication, Bluetooth and DECT, D-E-C-T. Yep. Now, everyone knows Bluetooth to some degree because it's in a lot of consumer products, and it's in some business products as well. And we have them in our speakerphones, in our headset range. But DECT is the interesting one, and it's a technology that was born in Europe about 1992. And DECT, if you remember when you had a home phone and you would go down to Dick Smith or Tandy and you'd pick up one of those kits of 4 walkabout phones, and you'd have them in various rooms of the house. That was based on DECT technology. Okay. So it's that same technology that's being used now. What we like about DECT, and we sell a lot of DECT headsets for contact center use for up to 1,000 ends. So all in one building. The good thing about DECT is that it's pretty bulletproof. It has very long wireless range, and it suffers far less from interference than Bluetooth does. Okay. Bluetooth is fine for 1 or 2 or 6 people in a normal office, no problem. Yep. In fact, we say up to maybe 25. Over that, you really need to look carefully at what we call the density of how you're going to use those. If everyone's online at the same time using their headset, Bluetooth can be a nightmare. One of the reasons is Bluetooth operates on the same frequency as Wi-Fi, 2.4 gigahertz, and microwaves also operate in that area. Bluetooth is an unregulated system whereby different devices compete for a certain bandwidth of channels. So you're not in control as to how many other people are in the area trying to connect their iPod, their iPhone, whatever, in the office at the same time. And because they're mainly consumer devices, the business isn't in control as to what the density might be, and therefore what dropouts might occur with Bluetooth.
Right, so it sounds to me if you've got a serious setup and you're running a call center or a small office where you need lots of people reliably to be on the headset, you really need to be looking at a DECT unit as opposed to Bluetooth. Yeah.
Yeah, a DECT solution, if ever you're going to have more than, say, 50 people in, say, the one floor of a building at the one time,
Yep.
we would strongly recommend DECT over Bluetooth. And now that we've released products that allow DECT to operate without a base, that is, you get one of these little dongles, sort of something about the size of that.
Yes, so
a bit bigger than that.
Just happen to have one as well. There we go. So
yeah, correct. You can get a little DECT dongle, and that's the transmitter receiver that plugs into the PC.
Yep.
So for someone who works in the office with a traditional desk, they have their traditional DECT base on which they charge their headset.
Yep.
But if someone's going to work 2 days a week from home, which is common these days, then what's going to happen is that people can use that same headset at home and then bring it into the office to dock it on the base as well. So that is DECT, bulletproof. It is more secure than Bluetooth as well, in that a pairing partnership is done between the base and the headset, and that channel is set in stone, if you like, and nothing else can interfere with it, and it is encrypted. So we find that IT security like DECT as well.
Yep, no doubt. And as you said, in terms of number of users that can go on DECT, like 1,000 is no problems for DECT, right? They could all be on their own secure channel.
Yeah. Yep. We're just rolling one out in Melbourne at the moment for 1,000 users. That's all DECT. Yeah.
Okay. There you go. So one of the other things I wanted to, I guess, mention, and thank you to you, Geoff, because your guys sent me one of the latest units which I'm using, because as you said, for a lot of people that now work from home in the office, it's not that unusual. The unit that I've got enables me a three-way connection, so I can just connect to my computer. I can connect to my mobile and just run my headset through my mobile, and of course, I can do it through Bluetooth with a mobile. DECT, when I'm in the house and just wireless and walking around doing stuff, or directly into my computer. So I only need one headset to connect to all three devices. It's a lot more simpler. Previously, I'd have different headsets. I'd have my AirPods from my phone, and a different one from a computer, and it's just a nightmare. So I guess that's some of the luxuries now that, and not just Epos, but a lot of the brands are sort of going, how can we help those consumers that are moving between different environments?
Yeah, right. As I say, DECT was born back in the days when there was just a simple landline quality of phone call. So that was what we call narrowband. Now we've gone beyond narrowband to wideband, and now with the SDW series, we have super wideband, which means you're basically getting hi-fi quality when you're streaming audio into that headset.
Yep.
So you're not suffering any audio loss by using it. And the whole idea, I think, these days is for businesses to be able to provide their staff and their agents who they want to be productive, and that means you want them to be comfortable. You want to provide them with a rich and real experience, as if you're talking to the person in the room, because let's face it, we're going to be doing more and more remote. Yep. There's going to be more of this, unfortunately, in the future. And of course, the workers really like working from home to some degree because of the flexibility. You do lose some of the socialization that goes with it. But, I think we're going to have to optimize the experience for both the agent and, of course, side B of any communication.
Yep, no doubt. Now we're both, if you're listening to this, you wouldn't be able to see this, but we're both wearing dual ear headsets, so one literally covering both ears. That's my personal preference. I like that it just blocks out and I can focus. Of course, there's some people that like just the over ear, and there's a lot of different ways to attach them. But I wanted to sort of touch on some of the technology, I guess, that you just mentioned, that makes the experience a little bit better. And one of those is noise cancellation. We hear it a lot. Is the varying levels of noise cancellation in terms of the quality, or if you've got it, you've got it, and what's it actually mean for the user?
Okay, so noise cancellation is a really interesting one, because if there is too much of it, we have had incidences of people getting dizzy. It is a known fact that it plays this psychoacoustic kind of trick on you. And if there's too much of it, you can lose sort of the perspective on where you are, and your balance goes. So it is something worth noting. We released a active noise cancel headset that was a corded USB model about 2 years ago.
Yep.
And it was very light on with regard to the amount of acoustic noise cancellation, active noise cancel. So We now are releasing a new model, and all of our models now can connect to a PC, and there's a free app where you can control the amount of active noise cancel.
Right.
So, and the best idea there is if you have only 30% active noise cancel on your particular headset, it uses less battery, so the power will last longer. So that's a really good way to go. It is a dangerous thing. I am a little bit skeptical about active noise cancel. I don't just want to promote the latest bells and whistles to everybody. I think it's relevant to the person. And I think if you're in an office whereby active noise cancel is absolutely required for you to do your job, then I think you've got a noise problem in your office, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And that maybe there's a design or a people density issue there. We're probably seeing less of that these days with people working with half occupancy and things like that in offices.
Yeah, and is the two types of noise cancellation, because the one I think we're talking about now is obviously blocking out the outside noise. If I'm in a noisy environment, etc., it sort of dulls that noise. The most example that I can think of for people is when they jump on a plane. If you've ever used the noise cancellation headsets, it's just like really noisy environment. You turn on your noise cancellation, it's a bit of peace and quiet when you're on the plane. So it's the same premise, but there's also some stuff in the microphone as well. Is that still called noise cancellation, or is that something different when it makes the listener only hear what I'm talking about and not pick up all the other noises in the office?
Sure, that's a really critical one for contact centres because of privacy issues. And we've had many people in health and finance industry want to chase the best microphone performance possible because they had complaints of a customer speaking to the agent next door being able to hear the conversation.
Yep.
From their neighbour. So that's not good at all. So that, you're right, that is one thing, and quite often that's passive. That is nothing to do with a battery powering anything. That's just good design of a good microphone.
Yep.
And we have, all of our microphones are noise cancelling, but we also have ultra noise cancelling microphones. They're a bit longer and a bit more severe, so that you have to place them quite stringently around the corner of the mouth.
Yep.
So that your speech goes into that microphone. If you wear it slightly off, like up there, then some of the ultra noise cancel ones won't pick that up.
Right.
So you have to be quite careful in how you do it, but when you place it correctly, it's absolutely right. So that's microphone noise cancelling. In terms of the travel headsets, as it started with active noise cancel, you're right, they have listening microphones in them and they hear noise around, and then they phase invert that. It's a bit technical. They phase invert that and then add that back into the original program that they're hearing, and of course the noise cancels itself out, and that's how you're left with the voice or the program and less of the rumble of the engines and all that sort of stuff when you're traveling. Remember those days when we used to travel?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
And is that the same technology that's used in the headsets that in call centres, or is it?
Yes,
does it work differently?
That's right.
It is. Okay.
No, it is right. And the other thing about noise cancelling, that is a very simple one, and because we're big on this thing about let's make sound natural and easy, because then the agents will feel like they're still fresh at the end of a day. If it's not a hard slog to hear, if the sound is real and natural, then that's the way to go. So we tend to fiddle as little as possible with the original sound. One way to do that is not to actually add a circuit of active noise cancelling at all, but as you say, you wear ear cups that have good cushioning, and that cushioning provides what's called ambient noise cancellation or ambient noise reduction for the wearer. So we've all seen on-ear kind of headsets, a bit more like what you're wearing, and then I've got more of a larger style one that actually encapsulates my ears very well. And the headset I have does have active noise cancelling on it, and you can only do that when the sound is really contained like that.
Yep. And for those people that are looking at buying headsets for their call centre, and there's obviously a lot of brands out there, and while I'm talking to you, we'll talk Epos, but we obviously know there's lots of brands, but I think one of the challenges you've got is that personal preference. As you said, if you're running a call centre, the reality is we don't all like having on-ear, some like over-ear, some like one ear. Are they just, in your range in particular, are they different models, or can you interchange the actual headsets themselves? How does that work? Because I can imagine the last thing you want is 300 different varieties of headsets in a call centre, because maintenance and cushions and all those sorts of things become complicated.
Yeah, you're right. On one end of the spectrum, you would have the old term bring your own device to the business. And that is a nightmare to manage for the IT manager or whoever is the unfortunate to have to make sure that they all work. That would be an absolute pain. On the other end of the spectrum, you have the business holds some rehearsals, tries them out, gives them to people, gets their opinion, and chooses one model.
Yep.
So there's probably a really good compromise somewhere in the middle, whereby the business consults, finds out what they need, speaks to a company that does it a lot, like ourselves or one of our partners, or as you say, the other brands would offer these services as well. Offer, qualification of, we think this would be best for you. Why don't you try these 5 models? And from those 5 models, they might decide on 3 models, taking into account some people, a single ear headset will be best because they need to stay connected to their neighbours next door in their team.
Yep.
With regard to what's happening. Dual ear headsets are popular, but they can be very focusing, and that can be a bit fatiguing over an 8-hour day. So don't be cut off unnecessarily. If you're working at home, you don't need to be that engrossed in your phone calls that you wear a dual ear all day, perhaps. So that's one thing to consider.
Now, with all my podcasts, we don't do advertorial, so this is not a plug for Epos specifically, but there's obviously a huge range of price in headsets, and you can only look at some of the suppliers. We've got them all on cxdirectory.com.au. You can look up headset suppliers, but there's a huge range in price. What's the difference? Is it just great marketing, or is it the quality of the headset, the microphone, the cushions, all of the above? What separates a good mic from good headset from a bad one?
Yeah, from our own perspective, we don't get too involved in marketing telling us what price we should sell things at. I think quite often it's based on manufacturing cost, quite frankly. If there's a lot of R&D and complexity in a product, then it will cost more. If the parts are more expensive, or if there's more of them, then that's another reason why costs will go up. We have USB headsets from retail pricing, say, of $90. And then we have the sophisticated 3-in-1 that connect to a phone, handset, connect to a mobile phone, connect to a PC, and they might be up to $700 retail. Yep. Businesses don't pay those prices, but that's a relative reference for you. So there's a lot in between. Speaker phones are $250. A speaker phone is a really good alternative to a headset sometimes, by the way. Yep. I've got mine here that I would usually use. That's my little SP30 speakerphone. Yep. And it's really good because it leaves my head free. It means I can walk around. It stays connected to my PC, and that's where I have my chats. So that makes that really easy. Another style of headset that is popular, we were talking about how should you go, is this around the neck one. And if I sit up a bit, you've got these little earbuds, and then here's the brains of it are in here with the microphones. Right. My wife really likes to use this one because she works in fashion industry, and she doesn't like to have a big clunky thing like this across her head when she's talking to her staff and colleagues and whatever. Yep. So she really likes to use a headset like that. Getting back to the IT manager, or who's going to approve the purchase of what headsets, a catalogue of 4 or 5 choices, I think, is the best way to go. But for the managers to be able to effectively maintain those, this is a really, really big issue now, especially as workforces become more distributed than ever. You spoke about the old computer under the desk that you need to connect to. Well, now we're finding contact center staff are going to a laptop and then being able to have all of their front end, all their management on their computer at home as well. That's right. Yeah. So that's a huge trend, and that means that device in that environment needs to be maintained by the company still. Yep. And all of the devices like headsets and speakerphones that plug into it. So you need to maintain that you've got ability to be able to do that. And we have software to allow that, for example, as do the other companies, to allow that remote management and updating of those devices to make sure they continue to work every day.
Yep, fantastic. Last question I want to ask you, Geoff, is around acoustic shock. It's a term that we often get, that we hear in the industry. Can you explain, first of all, what is acoustic shock, and secondly, what can we do to reduce it?
Yeah, an acoustic shock incident, I guess you would define as being unexpected high peaks of sound coming through to usually it can happen through a handset, just holding a phone to your head. But of course, it's even more concentrated when you're wearing a device like a headset. We're finding less prevalence of these days as everyone moves towards a digital platform like unified communications. There's a lot of filtering and management going in before the signal gets to the wearer of the headset. So that's evened out a lot of the issues with regard to the old phone systems in the corner that would have analog spikes and earthing noises and terrible crunches happening from time to time. So that's what it is. It's still a bit of a mystery as to what effect it has on the wearer when they experience this. But we've probably all heard about people feeling nauseous, just feeling not well, needing a day or so off, and there have been some cases that have gone, legal well beyond that. That's so right. It certainly is an issue. Different countries handle it in different ways. We don't allow any products in Australia to be sold that allow a sound pressure level of more than, I think it's 118 decibels. Still, that's pretty high sound level. That's sort of like jumbo jet kind of sound. Then we have recommended standards and specifications as well. There's a thing called G616, which is common in Australia, and nearly all of our devices have that available. So that can be switched on. It can be switched on and locked on remotely, so that wearers are always protected from those anything above about 103 dB, I think. And in Europe, they use an average standard called safety at work, which is an average of only 85 dB over an 8-hour day.
Yeah, right. And I guess that's designed, as you said, in the old days it was the analog, a whole bunch of noises and, the fax machine noise that you'd get coming through. The challenge when you've got a headset is it's not easy to get that off your head quickly when you hear those noises, or if you've got someone malicious blowing a whistle down the phone and those sorts of things, it can cause some serious damage to people, which, as you said, has resulted in some legal cases and, a very expensive work cover claim, I'm assuming, right?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, it really is an issue. We're owned by the world's largest hearing aid company, the Demand Group, based out of Denmark. And so, hearing is a really important thing to our company. So they're very keen to ensure that all of our products protect the wearer from any kind of hearing damage. So.
Yep. Fantastic. Well, I said at the start, if there's anyone who knows anything about headsets, it's you, Geoff. So if people want to learn more in particular about the Epos headsets, you can just head across to their website. I'll show you there. It is just eposaudio.com, and you've got lots of information there on enterprises, and you'll see all their different headsets. And in particular for us, obviously, we've got the contact center headsets that you can get in and see all the different range. Or you can, of course, go to the CX business directory. We do have the headsets now listed under technology, so you can just go there and you'll see office phones and headsets, and you'll be able to see all the different suppliers that are listed in there. So Geoff, mate, thanks for giving up your time. I know I hate dating podcasts, but you're in lockdown in Sydney and I'm just coming out of lockdown in Melbourne, but who knows when people will listen to that scenario has probably changed again, right?
Yes, exactly. Thanks, Justin. Enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next time on the CX Central podcast. Bye for now.